What's going on, advocates? Welcome back to another edition of the Black Mental Health Podcast. I'm your host, Reg. Joined today with me is a special guest. I love when I get to connect with other young brothers in the city that's doing great work and changing narratives, because that's the biggest thing out here is misconceptions, and we'll get into it. I'm sure. But I don't introduce no one because I don't like to miss a credential, a way of introducing. So please introduce yourself to the folks.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Octavius Blount. I work for the city of Philadelphia, Mayor's Office of Black Male Engagement. I'm also the founder of the GAME Project, Graduating African American Males of Excellence. It's a school-based mentoring program in South Philly. I'm also the founder of Urban Thinker Media, where we engage minds, express truth, empower lives, and elevate voices for Black men and boys across all platforms. Have my MSW from Bryn Mawr College, Graduate School of Social Work and Social Research. I also have my BA in Sociology from Arcadia University. A lot of people ask me where my name came from, but a lot of people say Roman Emperor and everything like that. But I just say I'm the male version of my mother, and her name is Octavia. I'm a God-fearing man, a son, fiance, and future husband. So, yeah.
All right. Well, you said a lot within there, so I always say we got to slow walk it back. So I'll start with you in a different way and ask: is this, when you were growing up, is this who you wanted to be when you got older?
Yes. To be honest with you, I've always worked in the space of Black men and boys. I wanted to be a basketball coach because I love basketball. But then, things happen, ankles get twisted, and then it's like, well, you can't play no more. So, I found a different way to do this. So I coach sometimes, not all the time when I can. But I would just say in the space of Black men and boys, that's where I've always been in and love where I'm at.
What inspired it?
Well, I would say always just being around older Black men in my life to just get a better understanding of who we are, and asking those questions of why is it so important to be a Black man, but then also realizing there are some stigmas that Black men have to face in this world that we live in. And I've always wanted to change that. I've always wanted to add the motto of change the narrative, change the perception. So that's what I live by.
I like that. You change the narrative, you change the perception. So for let's see. I know one of the things, we had a conversation with Black Man Hill. We had you come on King's Corner. You did a phenomenal presentation. I don't want to give it away because I know it's proprietary information, but please share as much or as little as you would like.
I can share, brother. It's called the Middle Brother, the E4 model. It's something I created just based off who I am when it comes to knowing myself. Like you said, is this the person you always want to be in when you grow up? And when I said, yeah, that meant the space that I created for Black Men Heal and creating this workshop. I've seen tension between the younger generation and the older generation, just bumping heads with each other. And I felt like I was the person that was just in the middle of that generation that was in the middle saying, like, I hear you, young brother, but then also, well, let me translate what you're saying to this older brother so he can literally hear you. And with the E4 model, it's engage, express, empower, and elevate. And there's those 4 E's are just ways to have us Black men grow together. That's one thing that we're missing. Just my opinion. And when you look at us Black men and this tension that we have, there's something that's not happening, or some love that's just not there. And a lot of people are not recognizing that, especially us young Black men as well.
So what is that? What is the gap that I found? I feel like you found the solution for the gap, but what is the gap like that you've noticed in the generations of why we're talking past one another?
It's just a lack of communication, a lack of understanding, and a lack of just wanting to share from what I've noticed. And that gap is like, yes, I can remove myself out of the situation and just sit and just observe. But when I'm observing, it's like y'all are saying the same thing, but y'all are not hearing each other. And I always say there's a difference between listening and hearing. So when you're hearing somebody, you're actually taking in the information and say, okay, how can I use this to either support you, to elevate it, or to move it forward, or just to understand and listen to you. If you need somebody to hear you, I'm here. So that's the gap that I've seen when it comes to just a lack of communication and a lack of understanding each other and hearing each other.
Anytime I have black men on here and we had a conversation about like gun violence in the hood and the streets, you work with the youth school-based program. Like, what are they saying around the gun violence? What's their perspective?
Well, with the young black men that I work with, we try not to like focus on negative things. We work on a lot of positive things, but we do have those conversations of there's some things that happen outside these four walls that you're in every day. Just make sure you're not at the wrong place at the wrong time. Meaning, either you're at home, you're working, but if you do have some other things that you need to do, please get home safely. Please get to your destination safely. So we try not to focus on some negative things. We try to focus on some positive things because we already know they're coming in with just a lot of things that are going on. I know you talk about gun violence. Yes, that's a very stressful situation to talk about. And a lot of young men saying we don't want to talk about it. And when I ask those questions, so what do you mean? Why don't y'all want to talk about it? They say, well, we hear it all the time.
Mm.
We that's just that we're numb to it at this point, to where it's like we can't. I don't want to listen to that no more. I don't want to even want to hear it. But I asked them the question of, okay, if you don't want to hear it, how do you know nothing's going to happen? You just like even just having that thought process of when I walk out this door, I have to be safe and I have to get home. So what is that process? And I asked them, do y'all know what hypervigilant means? They were like, well, is it, I know what hyper means. It's like hypervigilant is just aware of your surroundings, too aware of your surroundings and just being observant and just understanding like this could happen. But we try not to focus on a lot of negative things that are going on in this space, but because we try to give them something happy to talk about and not always something negative.
No, and it makes sense because a lot of the times when we talk about gun violence, we automatically associate it with young black men, and to have like a stigma within it, like is it's all or it's only black men. I think
Yep.
it's a tough conversation to keep having over and over. But I also recognize, and I'm sure you do, that in order for some of these solutions to be had, they have to involve youth in some capacity. They have to, because they're a valuable component on what's really happening outside, because they're in it for the
Yep.
most part.
Yep.
And so I always think about I never considered that fact of like, hey, I'm just tired of hearing about it.
Yeah.
But it's as an adult or as I guess an older black male, it's more so of like, but we want to protect you in a sense as well. So we need to get your voice so that way we can create the systems that you'll be within. If I hope that all makes sense.
Yeah, it did. I think that even in the space of yes, hearing your voice, hearing young people's voice is the main thing because they're the future to what we're going to see later on. And I think that yeah, someone in our in the space that I'm in, brother Ricardo Calderon, he always said nothing about me without me. And he only said that for the youth. So he kind of put youth in there. So nothing about youth without youth. So those conversations that we're having about young black men or just youth in general in this city, they have to be at the table. And one thing that that I've seen is that we got to recognize that yes, we can get certain kind of kids that can speak well, or certain kind of kids that are from a different area. But if you really want kids that's going to tell you what it is, you got to get the kids that's either going through it or they're the ones that actually see it. Because the kids that don't see it every day, they can't really say anything about it. They can just say what they've seen, what they've heard. Like for myself, example, I'm from South Philly, but I was always told, look, you can't go to the corner store by yourself. I was always told that until I was 18. And I was like, all right, you can go, but make sure you paying attention. And it's just like, I've never seen anything. I've heard some things and blah, 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 but I can't speak to anything. I can just provide resources about the positive side or what's going to happen in the future. But that's all I can say for that one.
Nah, and I wanted you to speak more to that position because I feel like it's that voice is necessary. Um, I feel like that voice is needed in a sense of, if I'm the young man that's in that currently, where I'm faced with two options. Either I'm going to get, played for not being with the stuff that everybody else is with, or I
Mm-hmm.
need to participate with it so that way I can, for my own protection and freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as men that, you know, when you say not really, because I always say I'm from the sidewalks. I knew what was going on in the
Mm-hmm.
streets. I knew what was
Yeah.
happening, what was going on. I maybe put my toe in there a couple times, but it was dangerous because cars be moving in them streets. A lot be
Yeah.
happening in them streets.
Yep.
So just knowing what is going on. But I feel like there's a mass majority of young men who are on the sidewalks, and we get portrayed with the men that's in the streets. Is that a fair assessment?
I would say that's a fair assessment because we're all not the same, but we're all looked as the same. I like how you said you were on the sidewalk. I got something that also says, "Who took you off the porch?"
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
like somebody said something to you that got you off that porch, and that space of you have options, meaning you can go this way or you can go the other way. I always say this way is the hardest way. Like the positive route, it is harder because you got people looking at you differently. You got friends saying, "What you doing over there?" I just say, look, you gotta lead by example. If people follow you, then keep it pushing.
Mm-hmm.
But you got some people that fall this way because they have other things going on in their life. Like you may have your mom, your dad, your grandmom that you live with, or everybody in your house, and you got to step up. But you don't know if you got the right things or right equipment or right skills to get a job. So you may do X, Y, and Z. You may dip your toe into the off the sidewalk. You may look at that car going by and say, "Hey, I need to do something for my family." And a lot of people don't look at it that way. They don't look at it as, "Oh, they're just doing drugs, they're doing this, they're selling that." But do you know the reason why they have to do it?
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at certain neighborhoods, you ask yourself the question, do you know why they feel this anger? Do you even ask those questions? A lot of people don't ask those questions.
Nah, I'm glad you bring that up. One thing I noticed when we did a community event together a few years ago, and I remember you introducing me to your mother and then saying
Yeah,
how you got your name, and I was like,
yeah.
I never even thought about that. Can you talk about the role it was for your mom and how she impacted you growing up?
Mhm. Well, I would like to say that first, I have the best mom in the world. I'm gonna just say that out loud. Anybody can say that about their mom. But I have the best mom in the world. Um, you can say that she was strict. You can say that she was loving. You can say that she was nurturing. She had to do both roles though. And that's the thing. When you got a mom that has to do both roles, she has to be strict on you because you're a black man. But then also she has to nurture you at the same time. But my mom made it her mission to sit there and say, well, I have to put black men in my son's life because she's a teacher for the school district of Philadelphia. She said, I have to put black men, positive black men in front of my son. Um, and now they're my uncles. And these black men that have crossed paths with me has stayed in my life because they were positive to me. My mom trusts them. So I call them my Black Mount Rushmore because these were
Mm.
the 5 men that I looked at for right and wrong. And when you say right and wrong, you're like, okay, I can take this. I see that that's not something that I would do or something that I think a black man should be doing. And it's just from conversations and observation. And now that I'm past them, now they're behind me, pushing me forward. Like, hey, look, I know we either did some wrong, did some right, but now it's on you to walk through that door and see what other black men like yourself, Reg, Doug, everybody else that I've connected with. These are black men that are positive in my life. They have some flaws, they have some perfections. I can handle the flaws because I can look at them and say, well, okay, that's who he is. I can't really tell him, can't really tell him who he is, but I can see that he's a loving individual. I can see that he cares about black men. I can see that he understands and wants to be there and be a present for his son, his family. So those are some things that I've taken from that space. And my mom has done an incredible job. And even right now, me being 29, she's always said, "Look, yeah, I know you 29, but you still my baby." Like, and like when you hear that, it's like cool. Like I appreciate you for saying that because at the end of the day, I always know I got somebody I can talk to. I got somebody I can bounce ideas off of. I always got somebody to talk to. So yeah, my mom, I wouldn't say My mom's my best friend because she would not she would not want me to say that. But I don't see my mother as my friend. I see her as my mother, and I see her as a respectable individual that cares for me, that loves me, and loves the woman that I'm with. She understands that just the space that I'm in right now, just moving into a certain space, another chapter. I always said to my mom, you got to relearn me every 5 years. And she took that and said, you're right. And like those conversations, we have conversations like that, those deep conversations of, yeah, once I hit 30, it's going to be a conversation. Now I'm a husband. Now you got to see me as a husband and your son. And then now when I have a child, now you got to look at me as husband, father, and then you're like, those are the things, those conversations that we had. And she's just been very supportive. I always tell her I was in training with my mom before I met my fiance. Just learning things, just having conversations and just being honest. So my mom always told me, just be honest. If you lie, now you got to keep up that lie. So yeah.
Oh man, no, my mom was she had to play both roles too. And because my dad was in and out of my life since I was 2. But you made an important point to say that she had to play both roles. Do you ever think about like the impact? Because in my early 20s, I reached out to my dad to see why he wasn't there. What impact was he? Why wasn't he in my life?
Mm-hmm.
And then over these last 10 years, I was able to find out what kind of person and human being he was, and
Mm-hmm.
some good, some bad. But I've learned that I had to create a boundary within that. Um, did you ever notice anything? I don't want to say missing, but things
Mm-hmm.
that you wish you would have had a restrained relationship with your father?
Um, I would say no, because I had that conversation with him. The whole conversation of why'd you leave? And he said, I knew your mom got it.
Mm,
And when I heard that, I was like, okay. And now my mom knows me. When I say okay, that means I'm done with the conversation.
mm,
Um, I think I was in high school, I believe, high school or a little younger, either seventh, eighth grade, high school, one of them. And I just had the guy said, I want to talk to him. And my mom was like, okay. Cause she noticed at a young age, I was just upset all the time. And she said, if you got something to ask, just ask. I said, where is he? She was like, okay. I was waiting for you to ask that question. Um, so she set up the conversation that I have with him, and he said, I knew your mom got it. I said, okay. And I looked at my mother. I said, I'm done. Meaning, I got the answer that I needed.
mm,
So now I can go on with my life and say, okay, I don't want to have black men already got check marks on them. You already got a check mark because you're black. And that check mark of not knowing who your dad is. I knew who he was, but the conversations never happened that a young black man should have with his dad. I didn't want to be in that box of you don't know who your dad is. You've never talked to him. You've never seen him. You don't know if you look like him, what flaws you have from him. Didn't want to be in that box. So I literally said to my mom, I said, I don't want to be in this box. I want to get out of this box so I won't have to always have that thought of who is he? What does he look like? But yeah, I just think just having that answer, that question answered, that was probably the most relief that I had in a very long time. It's like just that weight off your shoulders, sit there and say, that's okay. Now I can move on. Now I can move on.
it's tough though, because again, mind you, all right, so everything that you just said, like married and all,
Hmm.
I'm just now going through all of that, and I gave him, more time than I think was necessary, where I had to.
Hmm.
It was like when I think that's Maya Angelou, where she said, when people show you who they are, believe them.
Yep.
And you just, because they are like a parent, you almost feel like, all right, but maybe he didn't get a equal shot, or he didn't get a
Hmm.
fair chance, or maybe he didn't do X, Y, and Z. And then it was like you keep getting the same result. You're
Hmm.
hoping for the potential to come out. And it was like,
Yeah.
well, your mom already kind of went through that. And then I got an older sister who went through that. And
Hmm.
it was like, well, maybe you need a man. And it was like, oh, you're just who you are. Like, you're just
Hmm.
never going to change and not be who you be. So it was hard. It's almost like, and you probably can attest to this, when a relationship dies, it's almost like a real death, and you have to have the grieving process and all
Yep.
of those different things as well. So I'm like, damn, he's not dead, but I have to dead this relationship because of what it can get done to me. And I salute to you for seeing. I say all that today. I salute to you for recognizing that earlier of like, oh, all right, I know what this means. She got it. Then that means you just said a whole lot with just that one little statement.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I think that's why I said it was a relief, because at the end of the day, they always say black men are angry. I was angry. Not I And the thing is, I didn't know why I was upset. And once that conversation happened, then I knew why I was upset. Because you just ask yourself the question like, did I do something wrong? As a kid, did I do something wrong? Um, I know like you ask yourself all these questions, like I know this person didn't do anything wrong, but what happened? That's all I need to know. I don't need to know X, Y, and Z. I just need to know why you left. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm a very short and to the point individual. I don't know if you noticed that from me,
Mm-hmm.
but just me asking that question was like, look, I don't need the story. I just need the answer.
Mm.
So
Did
yeah.
Did you ever talk to your mom about how it impacted her having to play both roles and being in that capacity?
She said she loved
Hmm.
it. Because like my mom doesn't show certain emotions because she had to be like I said, rock solid for me. But we had the conversation of so how do you feel? And she's always said I love being your mom. She's
Mm,
like, that was my main mission. I prayed for you. So I wasn't gonna let nobody stop what I had to do or get in the way of your success or get in the way of just your trajectory as a black man. I wasn't gonna have anybody do that. And I just think that just looking at my mother say that to me as an older individual is like, okay, now I appreciate what you did and how you did it. Because when you said she's literally a linebacker or an offensive lineman and I'm the quarterback. And she's like, no, you need to get out the way or my son is gonna run you over or I'm gonna run you over. So yeah, she's always said that she loved it. Just being the mother of Octavius. So yeah.
you said something that triggered like a thought from our previous conversation with like King's Corner and Blackman Hill.
Mhm.
You said she prayed for you, but even like your birth process, it was a miracle in a sense, right?
Yeah. I was premature, 1 pound, 4 ounces. And a lot of people, my mother told me that I died twice. I kept taking the tube out. I turned purple. And my mom was like, look, if you can't get this tube back in my son, you need to leave. And it was a miracle. Yes, I came out. My mom said, look, you wanted to be in this world. It was no stopping you because they was like, yeah, you can't come out yet. I'm like, no, I'm coming out. And my mom said, all the she says it's funny. All great people are born in February because it's Black History Month, and I was just like, well, all right. But she always said, you're a miracle baby. My daycare provider, my grandma Bootsy, she said, you're a baby M, a baby miracle, because I wasn't supposed to be here. For Black men, um, my cousin did the research project on it when she was in 8th grade, and I was in fourth or fifth grade, and I was invited to her class to talk about myself because she did a research project on premature babies.
Mm,
And she did the research and told me she was like, "You weren't supposed to be here because Black men are not, or like the last or the bottom of the totem pole for premature babies to even exist." Um, so like I always tell myself, "Yeah, Octavius, you're here for a reason. You just have to figure out that reason." Um, and I pray about it. I ask God, like, what am I supposed to be doing? Um, Working with Black men, is this the space that you want me in? So yeah, it was a miracle. God had his hand on myself, the doctors in that room, because my mom said it was a long tube, and she was like, "You was but like that big," so it was
mm.
like they had to figure out what to do. And my mom said, "Y'all got to figure something out because this child is supposed to be here." So yeah.
Man, that's profound, man, and that is something to hold on to for the rest of your life, especially
Yeah.
knowing the circumstances that led to that. So
Mhm.
salute to you for that. one of the things you just said that I always go back to is, again, speaking with men or just the Black community in general, about how sometimes it feel hopeless with the work, especially when you're a server to the community, and you even initial is like, all right, I'm serving my Black community, but more specifically, I'm serving Black men within my community. So
Mm-hmm.
one, you have the fight against other Black men who can't really fully acknowledge and understand what you're attempting to do or doing every day.
Mm-hmm.
And two, the fight of, and I know you feel it because everyone that's in this type of work feel it, that you're alone in doing that work.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's almost lonely doing it. Like, man, am I the only one who really care? And so can you talk about like still having hope to heal
Mm-hmm.
even when it doesn't look like it's working?
I love that question. I'm gonna be honest with you. I cry almost every other night because it's like you ask yourself the question, um, either am I the next one? You ask yourself the question of, is this work even valuable that I'm doing? Is anybody even um, getting it? You ask yourself those questions all the time. Like you stay up at night and ask yourself, like, is this even worth it? Um, Worth it as far as like continuing this work that you're doing, continuing to serve. And I just ask myself, why are you serving? Like, why are you doing it? And I always say it's for Black men and boys because I want people to see us differently. Um, because to this day, we're still looked at a certain way. And I'm like, well, that has to change at some point. Um, but yeah, it's a stressful situation to continue to serve in a space where, especially being from Philadelphia and you hear what's going on. And a lot of people want to say Black men are hurting each other. Yes, we see it, but it's also something hurting internally.
Mm.
And that's the struggle that I've noticed. And Nipsey Hussle said it best. It said, you're not looking for somebody that's in a suit or anything like that. You're looking for somebody that look like you, that walk like you, that talk like you. And I said, so does that mean that we're conditioned or told to hate ourselves? Meaning when we see somebody that look like us, we have to attack or we have to do X, Y, and Z. And I just think about those things every night because it's like I love my brothers. I really do. And I'm not your enemy, bro. I'm not. Like I'm here to help you. And any brother that can cross any space or any threshold or door that we're in, if I talked about this on the King's Corner with the E4 model and middle brother. I said if I'm standing in front of a door, I'm not, if I can't open it or I got the key to the door, I'm gonna open it for you. If I'm not the one that's supposed to go through, bro, I'm gonna let you go through. But you gotta turn around and make sure the ones that's after you get through the next door that you going through. So I just look at it as it's a very stressful space to be in, but God don't give like the hardest war, his strongest warriors. He give him some wars to fight. And
Mm.
when I look at that space of just fighting and being able to serve at the end of the day, you can't ask for nothing better. So looking in the space of always wanting to serve and always wanting to be there for your brother, I can't ask for nothing else.
Yeah, no, it's the guiding light. I always said, for me, it's the Nobel Peace Prize. Again, Martin Luther King had it, but
Yeah.
just a lot of people, that's my championship. That's my gold medal. It's like the Nobel Peace Prize. And then everything else falls under that. What can I do to reach
Mm-hmm.
that, goal? Because I know that's the amount of people that you're going to impact. But if I'm being honest, some days I feel like, all right, what am I putting these podcast episodes out for?
Mm-hmm.
We provide free therapy for Black men on Black Men Hill, but we not reaching all the men, or are we really changing in the narrative? Are we really, if the perception, like you said, is still out there,
Mm-hmm.
and the amount of work that you do, and that for that narrative to still be out there, it
Yeah.
makes it self-deflating when you have to just look up and say, all right, should I just go be something with money and just
Mm-hmm.
get my money and be selfish? And of course, everyone's answer is no, but sometimes it's hard to pull yourself out of them dark spaces.
Yeah. I hear you when you say um podcasts and just do you want to just go ahead and like about your business? Because I'm in my second episode of my podcast, The Middle Brother, and it's like people really listening? Like you just, when you put stuff out, you just ask yourself, why am I doing this? Can I just go invest my money in X, Y, and Z and just leave? Because I've heard a lot of people say that. It's like, I'm leaving. And it's a struggle, but me, I can't. Because like, yes, I'm from Philadelphia. But you ask yourself the questions, yes, you can. A lot of people want to be selfish and just go. But I look at it as, yes, if I'm making a certain amount of money, I've had this conversation with my fiance. It's like, if I'm making a certain amount of money, am I leaving? Am I donating my money here? Am I donating it to an organization that is going to do X, Y, and Z with it? Or am I donating to somewhere that's going to help Black men and boys in the Black community? So those are questions I always ask myself. If I get a certain amount of money, I'm not going to be selfish with it. I'm not going to sit there and say, I made the money. I'm gonna keep it moving. And a lot of that's where, certain spaces create cliques of Black men, Black women, white men, all kind of people. You create cliques around, well, I made my money. Peace. Like,
Peace. And I'm not even gonna lie to you. That it was a quote that said, once you feel like you can't carry the ball anymore, that's your choice. You pass it on to the next generation who still got that fight and that energy within them. That's where you say holding the door open. Maybe that was just your time to stop. Like, you know what? It's time for you to go another way and pass the baton to somebody else who still got that energy, and let them keep fighting.
Yeah. I think that that goes also with when I expressed to y'all like about the doors, but it's also about the brother that's at the top of the hill. Like I said, he can plant trees and plant plants all day long. He can't do it himself. He can't go down, bring the water up, do this and do that, plant the seeds, sit down and watch it. He need to go tell somebody, hey, look, I need 5 of y'all to come up here and help me. I'm gonna teach you these 5 things, 5 different things, and y'all got to work together to get it done. I'm gonna go ahead and come back. Like I said, you're not gonna see the future of your labor. Like you said with Black Men Hill, you may not see it right now, but it may be some Black men later on down the line that say, well, I'm going to Black Men Hill. You may not see the future of y'all labor right now. And that's the one thing that I commend y'all, because y'all are doing it. Y'all did it off just the strength of, we're supporting Black men. That's it. And then when you're doing right, good things come to y'all. And that's what I've noticed. So I commend y'all for what y'all doing over there.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. Shout out to Black Ben Hill. You spoke on it earlier with the podcast, and it connect back. One of the things I feel like, again, not speak to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure there are little lights of hope that keep you going, and it keep you having these type of conversations. So for me, for the podcast, if I impress anything onto you, that I think you should keep doing it, because they are listening. One thing that the little light of hope that just came from me, which I'm about to do an episode on soon, is someone wrote me from prison, and they were like, hey, your podcast is helping me get through my time here at the prison. And I didn't even know they can listen to podcasts in prison. So it opened up a whole new meaning of why I am doing my podcast now, of like, hey, I can reach a potential audience that they financially probably can't do anything for me and help my career, but I can psychologically or help them get through a time in their life where they're rebuilding and restructuring themselves. So talk about the podcast, what it's called, what it's about, and what you hope people to receive from it.
No problem. It's called The Middle Brother. It's very simple and straight to the point. I'm kind of feeding off the workshop training that I put together, the Middle Brother E4 model. Just with this space, it's dope brothers, impactful conversations, and building intergenerationally. It's myself. Like I said, I'm 29. I'm that middle brother. And I bring on different generations of Black men just to have conversations around what it means to be a Black man. We go in the den. I call that In the Den because it's something I'm coining. It's called discovery, exploration, and navigation. So with discovery is more of, how did you discover you're a Black man? How do you explore your feelings and how you navigate society as a Black man? We also have who you repping, something I also coined as well. Rep is representation, expectations, and perception. So when you look at it as reception, you look at representation, you look at representation, how are you representing yourself as a Black man? And expectations, what expectations does society have on you and other Black men that you think you overcame? And also recognizing that their perception of Black men, how do you want people to perceive you? And just those questions in general have Black men look at themselves and answer questions like, okay, I've never been asked questions like this. And also, what's one thing that Black men can do to grow together? That question right there symbolizes the Middle Brother podcast because, like I said, there's been tension, there's been a lack of understanding, lack of communication. But when you hear a 22-year-old who I had on my first podcast from Brotha from Morehouse, he just said, remove the competition. And the brother that I've had coming on soon is coming up on Monday, February 28th. He just said, communicate. And just hearing two brothers that are just of different ages, I can relate to him saying, remove the competition. But then also relate to this brother right here to say, we need to communicate more. So this space that I'm in, as far as the podcast, is I understand it's a loving space. It's a space of positivity. And it's also a space to have, like I said, impactful conversations, because when you have those conversations with someone that's younger than you, and also brothers that are the same age as you or older, you learn something every day. And that's the main thing. I want brothers to hear that there are ways that we can grow together. There are ways that I can ask myself, how do I see myself when I look in the mirror? So overall, the podcast came about because of the workshop that I did. And I wanted other brothers to express themselves in a way like, look, this is who I am. This is how I see myself. This is how I want society to see myself. And even with, I created another podcast as well. It's called the Black Men Express. That space is for Black men to just share their inner Black boy. It's a term that I'm coining as well. I expressed that to y'all on King's Corner because, like I said, we all have that inner Black boy that's just trying to get out. We're misunderstood, not heard, we're not loved, or we are loved and understood, and given a hug. That inner Black boy comes out because we may cry, we may laugh, may be sad, and I just think that space is very vulnerable, and hopefully brothers can listen to that as well and provide a sense of space for themselves to be vulnerable as well.
What platforms is the podcast on?
It's on Anchor FM, but also Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher.
That's what's up, man. Make sure y'all go subscribe, give a review, leave some comments, share to other brothers that may listen, or that may need to hear it. You said the younger brother said remove the competition. I'm gonna go back and listen, but as we in this space right now, what did he mean by remove the competition in your eyes?
In my eyes, it means, as far as Black men, when it comes to removing that competition of either I'm better than you, I want to be a step ahead of you, you have something better than me, so I'm going to do better than you. In my eyes, it just looked like we can all eat. It's enough food coming from the kitchen that we can all eat at this table right now. And I think that was, from what I've seen and what I'm translating to you, brother, is we all here to sit around this table and eat together. There's money out there for everybody. There's resource opportunities out there for everybody. But at some point, there's a competition where I have to do better than you. And for Black men, I would just say, brother, I will share some off my plate if you ask, hey, brother, you gonna finish that? Because if you see me struggling, eating what's on my plate, and you say, hey, bro, I see you struggling. Do you need any help? Yeah, brother, like, here, here, take that. I'm not gonna eat this. And it's like, you don't want to, like, those opportunities you don't want to waste. And when you look at this, just an analogy of the food, but when I see an opportunity for yourself or a younger brother that was on the podcast, and it's not for me, and I know somebody that's better than me in that space, that's why I said in this E4 model, you got to elevate your brother with authenticity. I'm gonna elevate you, Reg, if I see a space that I can't be in, but they say, well, do you know anybody that's in X, Y, and Z? Yeah, I do. Here goes email. I'm gonna reach out to you first and be like, hey, Reg, they want your information. Do you mind if I give you your information? So I ask those questions and understand, like, hey, I'm elevating you to this space because it's for you, not me. So yeah,
I gotta give pushback on you. I
I hear
gotta
you.
give
I love
pushback.
pushback.
And reason being is I'll use myself for example.
Okay.
Um, there have been times where I have been not only misled by older black men or
Hmm.
used by men that they already had my trust because they were a black man. Like they already, they got it.
Yeah.
But because of and because we give you context, Doug has been one of the newer black men that I have learned to give my trust to. But for the
Okay.
most part, you just don't know who's holding the door for you or
Hmm.
who has the real key, and they
Yeah.
just pretending to hold the door open for you. um as a young man who wants to be trustful but has mistrust, how would you tell them to develop and regain that trust again?
I will always say, yes, a door will close on you, but you have, like you said, if somebody shows you who they are, believe them. It's different doors that you can go through. And when you look at one door, it's like, well, that's not for me then, I guess. And you got to say, well, I've been through all these experiences. You got to take those mental notes and say, okay, he treated me like this, he treated me like that. Did I appreciate it? No. Did I see that it wasn't beneficial for me? Yes. Was it a lack of trust on his end? Yes. So now I have to take mental notes of what's happening in these situations and how to combat those in the next one. And to regain that trust, you just have to continue to be yourself, continue to be you, continue to offer your full self, and have that understanding of I'm going to continue to offer my full self because I'm not going to retract who I am for the person that's in front of me.
Mm.
If you're your full self and they accept it and you can see them giving you your full self, yes, some people can mask it, some people can act like they're holding the door and close it on you. But it's always somebody behind you saying, hey, brother, I got you. I've been through that before. So let me lead you to this door over here, which is a revolving one. So you can come back and have a conversation with me and see how it went when you went through it. Was it what you expected? And you say no. You're like, well, yeah, you wasn't supposed to go through that one. So even having young men recognize that that there are some people out there that you may lose your trust in, but not everybody is that kind of individual. And maybe they have to have something. They have to go through some things to say, I just messed up with this young man. Um, how can I regain his trust? You have some brothers that are just hard. They just can't. You can't get to them, and that's the struggle. And you just got to keep talking to them. That's why I say if you engage with each other and have those conversations, you just keep coming back. They're gonna trust you. That's just with young black men, older black men as well. I do the same thing with them. It's like, look, I know you don't want to talk to me right now, but I'm here. Like, so you have to have that conversation. And like I said on King's Corner, you have the E4 model. You have the wheel. The first wheel is you go from engage, express, empower, and elevate. And then once you move on, that's just building a relationship. And to sustain it, you can go from engage to empower. You can go from elevate to express. You can bounce around because now you have that relationship with this individual to say, I trust you. And once you get to that conversation of sustaining the relationship and building a relationship, now you can say, well, I trust this individual. How can we move forward? Does he trust me? Now that's the conversation you got to have with that individual as well, too.
Yeah, and I was going to ask the opposite end of it, of the
Mhm.
question too, because I'm and we're in around the same age, so I'm moving into that space where I'm becoming an old head, and where you
Yeah.
get in the, how do you get the, I'm thinking of myself as a 40, 50-year-old right now. How do you get the, like, I done made my money, I done corrected my mistakes, I got my wife, family, I got kids, I got job responsibility, X, Y, and Z, and I got so much to lose because I done built up a lifestyle for myself. So I think what you've been saying is you got to engage. But if these young people will put me, or young brothers will put me at a risk from losing everything that I've done work hard to build, how do I actually engage with them when they're putting me at risk of liability of like losing the lifestyle I built for myself, if that makes sense?
It makes sense. Because I always say you got the OGs. They just tired of talking. They just get tired of talking. And at some point, you got to lead by example. And you have some OGs that's leading the wrong way. You got some OGs that's leading the right way. Um, We got some young kings that got to make that decision. And also, you have no more OGs now
Mm.
in the
Why is
space of
that?
what we're
Why
talking
is
about,
that? Like, what happened to that?
bro. Because you got some people that don't know what it means to be an OG. It's like I
Woo.
said, some people are just tired of talking. They get tired of young brothers just saying, "You don't know what you're talking about, old head." It's like, oh well, I'm not gonna be called that, but for so long. Um, and if you, some people just give up. They give up. They just say, "I can't get to him." Yeah, but somebody else gonna get to him.
Mm.
That's how I lead with. I'm gonna still be here because somebody gonna try to get you. And you hear all the time, certain people are like the best outreach coordinators in this space. That's why I said, who took you off the porch?
Mm.
That's our outreach coordinator. That they're doing outreach, and just to put a positive spin, the outreach that they're doing, they're getting these young brothers that are doing X, Y, and Z. You can ask the question of where the OGs at. Some people say, "Oh, they locked up or they dead." Okay, what about the ones that's not dead and not in jail? They in their house, like they in their house with their kids, they with their wife, or they just in their house not wanting to do anything because they're tired of saying things over and over again. And when you get tired, you just like, y'all gonna have to figure it out. And that's the point that I get to as well in the E4 model. You get some brothers that just get tired. They just say, you figure it out. That's where, like I said, the tension coming at. It's like, well, you figure it out. You doing it wrong. That's not how I would do it. So go ahead about your business. And you got the young kids saying, well, the way y'all did it back then, that's not how it's going to happen right now. And I say, not really, because the same thing's still happening when you look at it. And I've said this before, MLK, everybody else did all the screaming for us. They did all the marching for us. Us right now, our generation, we really shouldn't have to yell march because we're in certain spaces. Some of us are in certain spaces to sit there and say, hey, let's change this, let's change that. And I just feel like some things are not completely done. Like they can say, oh, that's all y'all want is just to take this down, do this, do that. Cool. Y'all want to change nothing. Y'all want to dig in our pockets. Y'all want to do this. Cool. And that's the space that we live in sometimes. It's just a never ending cycle of something happens. We protest, we yell, scream. They be like, all right, y'all good? Yeah, we good. And then it's the same, like it's the same thing. I just feel like something's missing, but I just don't know what it is, brother. It's yeah.
We in this vicious cycle, and one of the things I just thought about, and somebody brought it up with the Super Bowl, where we all were celebrating phenomenal Super Bowls, phenomenal. But what's really changed since Kaepernick? They put some things on the field, they put a couple things. Jay-Z got a job, like, but what really has changed since the Kaepernick incident? And honestly, what laws were implemented, and it's like we still had and that wasn't even the point I was making. It washed out the coaching thing. Like I think he got his job. Like it just washed out and it went away now.
You're not a head coach though.
Right. It just washed away, and it's like, then like, do we really want? And again, going back to our earlier point of it being like, sometimes it's like, what is it worth? We're going to do that and having these type of things. Honestly, something like the podcast, I like. The reason that keep me going, for one, I always thought about, like, for one, it was my own personal journey. And then it started after I moved past that layer, I was like, it'll be so cool to look back on some of this stuff like 20 years from now, like, oh, that's the mind frame I was in. Because if you could look on your grandfather, your great grandfather, and just hear their perspective, that's just history for your lineage of like being able to see that. Then the third is the student comes when the teacher comes when the student is ready. So by the time I build this library up of like, information and content, then somebody can have like a binge worthy worth of information to listen to, and then them little nuggets that keep you going. So it's a lot of protection layers that make me keep going, because if I just was doing it on, all right, let me find out how to make money from it, I've been quit this podcast a long time ago.
I feel you. I think that gives me inspiration as well to keep moving forward, because when you look at what you just said and how you said it, I can ask myself, okay, how do I want this to look later on down the line? If I have a son, do I want him to listen to it? Like, would this be something I want my son, my grandkids, my great grandkids to listen to? And will I still be doing it
Mm-hmm.
later on down the line? Would I want my son on? The same thing. So I just feel like we look at things, we don't look at things like far in advance and say, okay, what does it look like now, and how can I move backwards? And I just love what you say, because that's inspiration to me to say, okay, now, brother, how are you going to look forward to this podcast and what it's going to look like? So I appreciate you for saying that.
No, no problem, man. Again, we as we close out now, I wanted to be respectful because I heard it intertwined throughout your journey. Let's talk
Mhm.
about being a newlywed soon, come a fiance, getting married.
Yeah.
I'm still in the newlywed phase, I guess. I got married in July, but we've been together for 10 years.
Okay.
Um, what's the leap? How has it been being in a stable relationship, and what's making it? What are you hoping to gain from marriage? And I'm thinking of the context of a man and seeing like the significance of having someone, a spouse, and what it does for you
Yeah.
as a whole. So that's keep in mind that when you answer that question.
Yeah. I feel you. She right outside this door. She watching TV right now. But no, in my mind, it's having a stable relationship is, in my opinion, is the best thing, because you know somebody gonna be there for you. And then you also gotta look at it as, yes, there are ups and downs. Everybody want to talk about the roller coaster, the ups and downs, but I'm like, a roller coaster stop at some point. Like they it stops and you have to get off.
Mhm.
And my question is, do you get off with the same person? Do you go on that same ride again? Because at some point that ride is gonna get frustrating, that ride is gonna get annoying, that ride is gonna get um not fun no more because you've seen it already. But when I look at it being 29 and we're getting married September 4th, 2022, and when you look at it, you ask yourself, okay, now what? When that's done, now what? Because that's a lot of people say, oh, the celebration is not for y'all, it's for the family. I'm like, yeah, all right. But it's like we're bringing our families together, and that's the part that I love. Um, and I appreciate the fact that she's been on this ride, because I'm crazy. Um, and when I say I'm crazy, that means like I'm very protective. I'm very intertwined with who I am. Um, I'm not. I don't like a whole lot of questions. It's just like, look, I'm gonna ask this question. I just need you to just answer that question. But I'm learning her, still learning her, learning about her. And that's the best journey you can go on,
Mm,
because when you're learning somebody, you get to see little things that you can say, okay, I see why you do X, Y, and Z. I see why you do this. And it's also reflecting on some things that I've done, to sit there and say, okay, she responded this way. Let me see how, if I did it this way. And then it's also looking at love languages, um, and understanding those from her perspective, saying, okay, well, my love language is this. Okay, I'm not used to that, but how can I see how I can like rework some things on my end? Because that's what we do. We're both social workers. We both talk. We both understand each other. We're both patient. I'm not as patient. I know that, but she's very patient. And I think when you look at somebody that like me, I can be an extrovert at times, but she's like the calm for me. Like if I'm heated, she'll say, you know what, are you okay? Like in this space right now, are you okay? Well, you also got to look at X, Y, and Z. And in my head, I'm like, I don't need no session right now. But it's like, brother, you do,
mm,
because the person that's in front of you, you got to look at her every day, and you have to
mm,
be fine with this person that's in front of you. And you have to understand that um, the ride that you're going on is a long ride, because this is what you're going to be here for. And I always told her, I said, I ain't going nowhere. Like this, we in this. Like we are a team when we started. We're gonna be a team all the way to the end.
mm.
Um, and we just got to figure that out and like what a team looks like. And we're planning some things as well to talk to other couples, just to figure out like what it takes to have that journey, that long journey of 50 years, 30, 10, 1, because got a lot of people that ended after a year. And it's just recognizing the person that you're with, that's your life partner. That's not your wife. That's your life partner. And like if you want that person to be your life partner, what is that going to look like?
Mm.
What does your life look like now that this person is next to you? Do you continue doing the same stuff? We've had conversations like, look, yeah, you're working here, I'm working over here. How are we gonna get to work? So it's like just those conversations now. Even like what we're gonna eat. Like I work out this time, you work out at that time. Like how are we gonna connect the two? And sometimes even not connected to. If you go to the gym, okay, I got to do X, Y, and Z. Let me pick you up. So yeah, it's in my opinion, you got to be able to be on that roller coaster for however long you need to be on that roller coaster, ups, downs, all of
Salute to you, man, for making that
them.
leap and having that conversation. Cause I do think it's a perspective that you grow into after a while. Cause I
Mhm.
just grew in. Well, I've been saying for a while that my wife was family, and like I make sure, regardless, she's going to be good. She's a part of family. But now it's accepting, like, oh snaps, my wife is my best friend.
Yeah.
Like that's who I want to tell, like the new information to if something important happened and all X, Y, and
Mhm.
Z. Like I'm in that phase of like, oh, well, now you're my best friend. Like, what does this involve? Like,
Yeah. I gotta see you every day.
yeah,
I gotta tell you everything.
I gotta tell you all of these different things. So, nah, salute to you for sharing that, man. And I
Thanks,
wish y'all
brother.
many blessings along the Jersey and early congrats.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you.
um, as we close out, we talked about the podcast, Urban Think Media, the Middle Brother, the E4 model, all of the different things you had going on. What message do you want to lead the men overall about wellness?
Hmm, that's a good question. Um, One thing I would say is it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to cry, and it's okay to um, have someone to confide in. Meaning, it's okay to have someone to talk to. It doesn't have to be your woman. It can be your brother. It can be somebody you trust. Just get those thoughts out of your head and continue to just express yourself in the way that you need to, and cry when you need to, and laugh when you need to.
It's beautiful. And you just told me you was crying the other day about it. So you see how I love having these conversations because it shows a different side. It wasn't like, yo, no, I just thugged it out, man. I was like, yo,
No.
I was hurt the other day.
Yeah.
Man, I appreciate that. I appreciate you for coming on. On that note, please go subscribe, follow, share this podcast, share this information with people so that way they can go support everything that Octavius have going on. And make sure y'all leave a comment on Apple Podcasts about how good this episode was because he dropped a lot of gems. And remember that this platform has never been about being a replacement to therapy. It's an alternative place where people share therapeutic stories. Thank you for listening.